Welcome back, everybody, to NitWits Season 2. This is Episode 2, and it's great to have you here. In this episode, I want to take a little time to clarify my goals for this season. So, number one is in every single episode, there needs to be at least one redstone device demonstrated. So, I plan to showcase one either game, something fun, something practical, maybe a farm, but just one redstone build per episode so that you come away having learned something new. The next thing then is to server updates. I want to include some of the highlights of what's been happening on the server so that you can stay up to date on the activity of other players. And then the third and most importantly is enjoyment. This is for me to be fun, no stress, no deadlines, no pressure. This is a series for me to enjoy, and if you enjoy it too, that's a bonus. You might notice that all the clips in the episodes are recorded using the flashback editor. The reason for that is, again, no stress, no deadlines. I don't want to worry about capturing footage in real time and making sure the audio is perfect and double checking every detail. I just want to record. I'm recording what I can in flashback mode and kind of making the best of it. Another one of my personal goals this season is to use a horse as much as possible. I'm making the no wings club, which just means I'll be relying on horses and other traditional forms of travel instead of elytra for as long as I can. And speaking of horses, you may have noticed that my horse can jump over 5 blocks. It's the same horse I was bragging about in episode 1. It has already near maxed out stats. So right now we're out at Iceproof's horse track testing out his redstone powered timing system. It's a really cool setup that lets you check your horse's speed and stats when you run over these lines here, and you can check your jump boost because of the different height blocks in the background there. But now let us dive into the first redstone build for this episode. This is a project that John had created to conceal the output of one of his farms. This was originally included in a short video which I released, but I kind of took down because I wanted to refine it. However, the redstone behind it is still solid. The mechanism allows you to turn a path block back into dirt, making it reusable. So if you want to build it yourself, this is basically, here's what you'll need. In this hopper, you need to place 3 stacks and 37 items to give a signal strength of 11. Then connect that comparator into the amethyst side of your sculk sensor. Direct the signal into a target block with the comparator. Add a comparator to the comparator delay to the other side to keep the door open for longer. Use a torch to power the sticky pistons to extend the block, and then use the inverse of that signal, as you can see right here, to power the sticky piston, and that turns the path back into a dirt block for you. And you can see that the door resets itself. So you're all good to go for another lunch. We also had our first ever server build off, and this event in particular was called the Double Bundle Build Bonanza. This challenge was to take 2 randomly generated bundles of items and just create something out of it. Each player submitted a prize into their own bundle. I contributed, like you can see here, I renamed an item, and I contributed sponges, diamonds, and a skeleton skull to my prize pool. And then you rename the item to indicate that it's yours, and once you put it in, you press the button, and when you look in the barrel, ta-da, you should have 2 wonderful bundles with random items in it. So to create these random bundles, I guess, I just used a comparator clock that filled up droppers with various items. The system would then randomly distribute up to 18 blocks per bundle, followed by 2 decorative items. And if you're curious about how to do it yourself, you can kind of follow these steps here, where I've just turned it on until my inventory is full up, put it all in a bundle, put the bundle in the chest, repeat over and over. And just do that for until you've filled them all up, I guess. Honestly, I can't really think of a reason why you would want to repeat this redstone, but just so we can talk about it if you like, here's, if you're curious, how to build your own Double Bundle Build Bonanza device. That might not be what it's called. So look, you just got to place 2 barrels down. You've got your input and your output, and we're going to lock the hopper with this torch, and then take the output of that torch going off so it makes a straight line to power these blocks on the side as well. And then we're going to power the hoppers, and basically this means that when you push the button, it unlocks the hopper for 1 tick, and then it powers the droppers for 1 tick as well, so that your items end up inside, and then you can collect the items from down below. And this is the view from on the actual server. And now let's build it. These are the blocks that I got in my 2 bundles, which is not a great selection of things, but like what is a good selection of things, I guess. So you can see here from the original footprint that I've done out that I decided to go pretty big initially, and then I realized that you don't get many blocks from 128. So that was broken up then, and I made it into something a little bit smaller. To be honest, like, it's terrible. I'm aware it's terrible, but I'm happy with how it turned out, even though it's terrible, because I don't know how much better I would have been able to do with this sort of stuff. But yeah, this is my submission for it. It's a 2-floor barn loft type build, which, like I said, is kind of the best I could do with 128 random blocks. I do wish that I had seen some of my server mates do it before, because maybe I would have been inspired to do something that wasn't like just a building. But I'll show you off the rest of these submissions now as well, so you can see what I'm talking about. Yeah, just so you can kind of get a feel for how other people used the blocks in what I would argue is a better way than how I've done it. So this is Spa's 2-floor barn loft thing. Awesome. So up first we have Duchan, the home away from home. Then next up we have Latifer's Frozen Meteorite. Following up after we have Smiggy's Miniature Chunk. Then Artie's Radioactive Friends. Then we had Teabag's Monster Truck with Patriotic Flag. And then we had Looting's Nether Concrete Power. And then finally JPM's Some Sort of Antenna Build. The voting for this has already ended, but I'm super curious to hear what your favorites were out of the build, so do leave us a comment down below and let us know what was your favorite of the Double Build Bonanzas. And now it's time for the big redstone project of the day, an archery minigame. A few years ago, I built a 2-player archery game called Pew Pew. This time I'm expanding it to a 4-player version, and here's how it's going to work. We're going to call it, firstly, obviously, Pew Pew Tew, because, you know, it's got a nice little ring to it, I guess. And what we're going to do is basically you're going to have a target block connected to a comparator, and this is going to measure the shot accuracy. Hitting the target powers your dropper that you see right here, and that sends the item into the hopper. We're going to lock the hopper with the redstone torch, and meaning that only the shots that go in during that round obviously count and get stored, and then the comparator reads the item count, gradually increasing the score. So I kind of just had this idea while I was working on this that, oh, well, what if I use the score to affect how accurate you have to be? And what's happening right now is I'm taking a signal from the hopper comparator and I'm passing it into the initial target comparator. And what that means is every time you score a point, you actually have to get more accurate each time you score in order to actually score a point. So it reduces the amount of space that you have on the target to shoot with. So when it's on 12 like it is right now, you have to get a perfect bullseye or within 3 pixels of a bullseye in order for you to actually score this point. So the game gets more difficult the more ahead you are, basically. Next up, I just want to take that 15 signal strength and actually connect it up to a display so we can see after each point that's been scored. So I'm just going to make a bunch of lamps up here. I'm not really measuring, I'm kind of winging this. And then I want to connect up this 15 to the lowest point. And I'm just trying to kind of figure out the best way to do that. Like this way, I accidentally end up quasi-powering the dropper that's underneath, and so I decided to go up a little bit higher. This is pretty standard stuff, like how this is done. If you're doing any sort of staircasing or anything in redstone, this is kind of standard practice. I just haven't done it for a while, which is why I'm trying so many different ways. I can't remember which way is like the best way to do it anymore, but I would recommend just kind of wire everything up, and then for each shot make sure the scores are updated. So if I just turn off the power here now, you'll see the scores get reset. And if I turn the power back on again, as we discussed, and I throw my snowball, I can see that the points get added to, there we go, that's the first one. And we just fixed the connection there, so the second point has been won, so I got to put a repeater in there. That's perfect. Then the third one, that's strong enough to reach it by itself. The fourth one, that's strong enough to reach it by itself. And then the fifth one, I think this takes me a couple of seconds because I kept missing. And then obviously you can tell that I've put in 6 rows instead of 5 as well, so just remove that extra one and make sure that the redstone all connects up, and we're good to go with the scoring. So now that some of the scoring stuff is out of the way and we've got a nice little display going, I wanted to try and make it a little bit more difficult, because, you know, if you can just kind of aim your bow at the same spot and, you know, it just goes in, then I suppose it's kind of easy to do. So in this case, I'm adding a clock here to make a block pop up and down in front of our target block to make it a little bit harder to actually hit your target. To do this, all I've done is add a torch to the piece of redstone that says, are there any points scored? So as soon as you score a point, this clock will start going and the obstacle will get in your way. So right now I've just built a little bit too close to the ground, so I'm going to use Axiom Mod to lift it up out of the ground a little bit for me, and we're just going to check now to see, well, has the game been won? What is the game being won? What does that mean? Well, it means that we are getting a max signal from our output, and we're going to detect that by putting a redstone block into the side of our comparator, and then have that actually go around and block off the target block. So we put in that little barrier there to make sure that there was an obstacle in the way. We're going to use that exact same obstacle to block off the game if the game has been won. So if there's already max points inside there, then we're going to block it off, and I'm just going to decorate this a little bit and then copy it out. As you can see, I made a mistake with that first copy there, but it's not really a big deal. I've kind of made these so that they're only 3 or 4 wide, so that I'd be able to do this pasting. I kind of always had this in mind, that I would copy and paste the previous ones, and I've just updated the wood types, and we're adding in some dirt here for where the actual gameplay will take place. We need to start the game, basically. So we're going to make it so that we flick a lever and the game turns on. But before we do that, we want to make sure that there's actually a win condition, because we don't want a bunch of different people winning. So basically what we're going to do is we're going to connect up that line that says, well, is this signal strength 15? Well, yes. And if it is, then we connect it up so that when one person wins, all of the other games close off at the same time. So we can see that there, where I've intentionally made yellow win there, bamboo has won, and you can see the rest of the targets have been blocked off as well. And then we need to add in some sort of delay timer, I guess, because you don't want the person who flicks the game on to be at a disadvantage. You want to be able to give them a couple of seconds to get into position and get ready to aim and everything like that. So we're just going to add in a delay here, a signal delay, and I'm just going to do that with 2 hoppers facing into each other, just so I can customize the time on this. You could do like a comparator delay or something like that, but just because I want to have control over it, very specific control over it, I'm going to use this instead. And then you need to let people know right before the game starts, well, you know, hey, we need to make some noises here. So 1 second, before I actually copy this over here, I'm going to make a survival friendly version of it that is a little bit cheaper, because I'm going to replace all those iron blocks with stone blocks. So you can see I've just done that there now. So it's a little bit cheaper and a bit more survival friendly. And then we want to add in a little notification sound as well that lets people know, hey, you know, in 1 second, 3, 2, 1, game is going to turn on. So we're just going to add some note blocks here. Unfortunately, I should have spotted that this was powering the block underneath it, or the dust underneath it, so I've removed that there. I've just done it in the opposite direction and added a little doo-doo when the game is ready to play. And speaking of different noises that the game can make, I'm going to add in as well 4 different sounds for each player. So one makes a plink sound, one makes a bonk sound, one makes a whatever sound, all kind of different notes and everything, so that each player knows well, who's making the noise and who's scoring the points. It's always nice to have a bit of audio feedback as well. And, well, ladies and gentlemen, that is it for today's episode. Thank you so much for tuning in. We're going to build Pew Pew 2 next time in Survival, so do join me for that. And we'll have a couple more bits of redstone and a few more adventures in place. We've got the End Dragon fight scheduled for next week as well, so that should be good fun. So stay tuned. Thanks very much. Take care. All the best, and bye-bye.